comprehensive El Nino coverage you won't get anywhere else. El Nino, Currents of Change, an NBC4U special report.
Good evening from the Brocon News Center in Universal City.
El Nino originates from warmer than normal ocean water in the eastern Pacific near the equator.
This area of warm ocean water changes weather patterns above the ocean, specifically the jet stream.
During El Nino, the subtropical jet stream delivers warmer, wetter storms that can bring twice as much rainfall as normal.
This type of rain tends to fall during the peak of the season, typically January, February, and March, and can lead to flooding and mudslides.
El Nino is a naturally occurring phenomenon that returns every 5 to 7 years. But it's not whether it's coming this time, it's already here. I'm Fritz Coleman. The NBC4 weather team has been tracking this El Nino for months.
I'm meteorologist Anthony Yanis. Right now, NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, is forecasting a very strong El Nino. It's 2.5 on the strength scale. That's 2.5 degrees Celsius, a sea surface temperature anomaly. The current forecast is that it'll last into the winter and possibly through the spring.
I'm meteorologist Crystal Ager. The Climate Prediction Center, part of the National Weather Service, is forecasting greater than average rainfall for virtually all of California. And according to NOAA's most current winter outlook, Southern California's probability of a wet winter has gone up from 40 to 50%. In fact, the precipitation outlook calls for wetter than average conditions in the southern tier of the United States, from California all the way to southern.
The signs are here.
Now we continue to see an even stronger El Nino developing.
The same conditions taking shape that could trigger some of the strongest storms we've seen in decades. Storms that could turn drought-stricken California from this.
You can see all the water.
To this. The weather pattern even stronger than it was this time during the 1997 Super El Nino, when we had floods, mudslides, and destruction.
Classic El Nino.
You've heard a lot about El Nino. Tonight, we're going to walk you through the forecast, show you the impact it's having right now, explain for you what could happen next, and prepare you ahead of the storms. For the next 30 minutes, comprehensive El Nino coverage you won't get anywhere else. El Nino, Currents of Change, an NBC4U special report.
Good evening from the Brocon News Center in Universal City.
El Nino originates from warmer than normal ocean water in the eastern Pacific near the equator.
This area of warm ocean water changes weather patterns above the ocean, specifically the jet stream.
During El Nino, the subtropical jet stream delivers warmer, wetter storms that can bring twice as much rainfall as normal.
This type of rain tends to fall during the peak of the season, typically January, February, and March, and can lead to flooding and mudslides.
El Nino is a naturally occurring phenomenon that returns every 5 to 7 years. But it's not whether it's coming this time, it's already here. I'm Fritz Coleman. The NBC4 weather team has been tracking this El Nino for months.
I'm meteorologist Anthony Yanis. Right now, NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, is forecasting a very strong El Nino. It's 2.5 on the strength scale. That's 2.5 degrees Celsius, a sea surface temperature anomaly. The current forecast is that it'll last into the winter and possibly through the spring.
I'm meteorologist Crystal Ager. The Climate Prediction Center, part of the National Weather Service, is forecasting greater than average rainfall for virtually all of California. And according to NOAA's most current winter outlook, Southern California's probability of a wet winter has gone up from 40 to 50%. In fact, the precipitation outlook calls for wetter than average conditions in the southern tier of the United States, from California all the way to southern New England. Possible heavy rain and snow due to an an overall change in the jet stream are forecast to begin in December or January.
I'm meteorologist Shauna Mendiola. We've had consecutive years with below normal snowpack. In 2013, we finished the season with 47% of the normal snowpack. 2014 was down to 33%, and last year saw only 5%, one of the smallest snowpacks on record. It's critical we build up the snow in Northern California. Snow forecasts are dependent on the strength and track of winter storms, which are generally not predicted more than a week in advance.
I'm meteorologist David Bigger. Temperatures during the current El Nino could have a big impact on snowfall. NOAA's forecasting a greater chance of above average temperatures across much of the west and the northern half of the United States. These higher temperatures in California could lead to higher snow levels rather than snow at the mid to lower elevations.
The U.S. drought outlook shows some improvement is likely in central and southern California by the end of January, but not drought removal. Additional statewide relief is possible during February and March. More on that still to come. Climatologists, oceanographers, meteorologists all compile the data for the El Nino forecast.
Fritz, I spoke with some of the leading experts in their field to see how they determine a strong El Nino is here. On a warm Marina Del Rey morning, they're at it again. The UCLA Marine Operations team is headed out. This group of oceanographers is documenting the incredible warm-up of the waters off Southern California with their floating lab.
As long as I've been out here, I don't think I've ever seen surface temperatures this high.
The average temperature near Santa Monica is 62 degrees this time of year. Today, it's an astounding 74. Professor Molemaker and his students use this contraption, a rosette sampler, that can go down 700 meters deep. Once deployed, the rosette sends the data back to this onboard screen.
Near the surface, we're seeing really warm temperatures.
Their research shows that since March, the wind hasn't been circulating the water, so the sun is able to bake the surface of the ocean.
Lower winds, less mixing with the colder deep water, and so that heats up the surface.
Molemaker and his team are sampling a small part of the ocean temperature here in Southern California. But to get a worldwide measure, you have to look to the sky. Because El Nino is a worldwide phenomenon, it takes a global satellite to track it. Developed at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory and smaller than a school bus, it precisely documents the temperature of the ocean.
Once every 10 days, the satellite completes an orbit all the way around the Earth, and the Earth rotates underneath it, so it spreads out the measurements all over the planet.
It's called the Jason 2 satellite, and it travels 800 miles above the Earth. The onboard radar measures the height of the ocean and is accurate within an inch.
Warm water stands taller than cold water because water literally expands as it heats up. So these areas of white and red show high sea levels, and that means warmer waters than normal.
And it's this warm water that changes the wind and jet stream patterns around the world. When El Nino is this strong, it puts the west and southern U.S. right in the middle of the storm track.
Here in California, what El Nino is most famous for, it normally doubles our rainfall and doubles our snowpack. And so everybody is looking towards this El Nino as the great drought buster or the great wet hope. So this El Nino is just not at the surface. This El Nino is embedded deep in the ocean, so it's not going anywhere soon. At this point, this El Nino is too large to fail.
Now that we know why the experts are predicting a strong El Nino, what can we expect when strong storm systems develop in the months ahead?
Lessons learned. The record rain and devastating impact from fierce El Ninos in the past. And running dry. What will it take to replenish and revitalize in the midst of California's historic drought? When El Nino Currents of Change continues.
Listen, what are you going to do?
That's actress Diane Cannon taking it all in stride after her Malibu home was damaged during the 1983 El Nino. We've been keeping records about El Nino since the 1950s, 23 seasons total, with 5 classified as strong or very strong. And believe it or not, all 5 seasons ended up with above average rainfall. Now, mind you, a couple of those years, especially the first three on this list, 57, 58, 65, 66, and 72, 73, ended up with just about an inch or a few inches above normal. But it's these two seasons right here that are the most memorable. Not only are they the strongest on record, 82, 83, 97, 98 both saw nearly double the regular rainfall for downtown LA, and they ended up on the California top 10 costliest flood list in 3rd and in 10th. Battered and bruised. During the 1982-83 El Nino, California suffered $1.2 billion in damage. 36 people were killed. A string of winter storms and a spring with double the normal rainfall brought heavy rain and flooding from the valleys to the coast, where homeowners felt the fury of El Nino and vessels were tossed like toy boats in a bath. 15 years later, the strongest El Nino on record, a year's worth of rainfall in 1 month. Swift water rescue teams in demand, making dramatic rescues everywhere.
The victim grabbing a hold of the skid, the rescue specialist helping him to step up and inside.
People and pets plucked from the rushing waters.
Hang on to those dogs.
17 people lost their lives, and the destruction totaled more than $500 million. Like this emergency in the middle of the night. Splintering wood and shattering glass destroyed this home and 6 others in a Laguna Niguel landslide. One of the biggest concerns during the current El Nino, the amount of burn scars like this one from the 2014 Colby fire in Glendora. These scars would fare well in a normal season, assuming the rain is across several months. The hillside would absorb the rain with light runoff. However, if we have month after month of above average rainfall, the soil might finally give, leading to a mudslide. The burned out scars of land have no roots to hold the soil together. Another scenario, a single large rainstorm, or a month like February of '98. Keep in mind, February, our average rainfall for downtown LA is 3.8 inches of rain. In February of '98, though, we saw a series of storms that brought the total up to 13.68 inches of rain. If we see that again, that could lead to rapid runoff and a higher potential for seeing mudslides, Fritz.
David, you pointed out the takeaway from the '98 situation, and that was it wasn't the work of one individual storm to cause the flash flooding and mudslide problems. It was the cumulative effect and the ground not having an opportunity to dry out in between the storms. A big question people have about this El Nino is, with crossed fingers, could this be a drought buster?
Yes.
Crystal, what are the chances of that happening?
We are asked that all the time. It is the burning question. So, Fritz, let's take a look at where we stand right now. We're in the midst of one of the worst droughts in over a century. This map shows 99% of the state is in some form of drought, over 46% in exceptional drought, as bad as it gets. And according to NOAA, California is running 5-year precipitation deficits of 27 inches along the south coast and almost 50 inches along the north coast. So what will it take to ease drought conditions? To get back on track, NOAA estimates that during the next water year, rain totals will need to be 135% higher than normal in the northern part of the state, 160% higher in the southeast, and a whopping 198% higher than normal in the southwest and the San Joaquin Valley. That last one is important. The San Joaquin Valley is the agricultural center of the state, and in order to reach that 198% mark, the water year would have to be the wettest on record. Remember, it took us 4 years to get here. We also need rain in Northern California because that's where we get most of our water. The State Water Project includes a number of reservoirs, the largest being Lake Oroville. But if we do get record rainfall, it could strain the state's reservoirs and dams. Too much rain in a short amount of time could lead officials to flush water into the ocean to keep dams from overflowing. Storm channels bring that water right here to places like Dockweiler State Beach, often contaminated and full of bacteria. Besides replenishing our reservoirs and restoring lost groundwater, California needs a healthy snowpack to get out of the drought. Statistics show we'd need a snowpack that's 150% above average. The real unknown with this particular El Nino is something called the blob, caused by a blocking ridge and unrelated to El Nino. This area of warmer than normal water off the coast could contribute to even warmer storms, which would decrease the snowpack. Even if we have substantial rain and snow, state officials do not want us to ease up on water conservation. This El Nino could be followed by a strong La Nina, or another multi-year drought. The impact on the drought remains to be seen, but one thing is certain. It's been a banner year already along the coast.
Epic sport fishing.
Yeah, boy. Yeah.
The rare catches off the coast and the dangers just below the surface.
Oh my God.
El Nino's impact on marine life when we return.
It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's one for the record books.
That's how we do it.
This is no fisherman's tale. It's the real deal. An explosion of subtropical fish thanks to El Nino.
It's off the hook. It's incredible.
Don Brockman has baited his hook and cast his line through 4 big El Ninos.
We've had trips with over 1,000 tuna in a day.
Yellowfin tuna, mahi-mahi, yellowtail, all plentiful off the coast because of El Nino's warm waters.
We not only have good whale watching, we have great fishing. It's just a win-win-win, just like going to Disneyland. It's Disneyland on the water, and it's fun.
But just like the tides ebb and flow, those are the El Nino highs. And these are the lows. Shark sightings and some attacks up and down the California coast. A Malibu kayaker airlifted to the hospital after a hammerhead shark bit his foot.
Seems to be increasing as far as sightings and contact goes with sharks.
A great white.
I started swimming furiously.
That chomped down on a longboard near Morro Bay.
Try to touch his dorsal.
In La Jolla, nervous laughter as a shadow glides underneath.
He's thick. He is.
A hammerhead circled these fishermen for about an hour.
The predators coming closer to shore following the food trail.
So when we have an El Nino, like a strong El Nino like we're having now, it brings in a completely different cast of characters, a tropical cast.
And that cast includes other close encounters with schools of stingrays.
It's just an intense pain right away, and it's instant, so you really know that you got stung pretty fast.
Venomous, yellow-bellied sea snakes. A mesmerizing sea of small red tuna crabs.
We occasionally see a bird that got caught by a cat or something, but I've never seen anything like this before.
And a record number of whale sightings.
We definitely have a humpback whale in front of us.
But for some species, it's a crisis.
They've been found all up and down the entire California coast.
Endangered Guadalupe fur seals washing ashore malnourished as warmer water forces their food sources further away.
The changes in the atmosphere and the impact on marine life, all indications of a strong El Nino.
Lifeguard patrols keep beachgoers safe, but what can you do right now to get ready for the storms?
Prepare and protect. The critical steps you can take to keep your family safe when El Nino Currents of Change continues.
Mudslides and flash floods can strike at any moment. Officials are pushing for Southern Californians to take El Nino seriously and to prepare for what it may bring. As if the flash floods and mud avalanches in northern LA County this month weren't enough to make the point, a team of state and local officials want to reinforce it.
I'm not really too concerned yet, but that I might change my mind in an instant if the water continues, if it rises quickly.
Oh yeah, we got El Nino coming.
Ventura County Public Works Director Jeff Pratt told us the forecast for an exceptionally wet winter raises the stakes for the annual storm preparedness drill. The Emergency Operations Center directing responses to different emergency scenarios.
So in this particular case, they got a blocked culvert that's threatening the road. They got to get this cleaned out.
Well, we have to be concerned, and that's why we're translating that concern into preparation.
A decade ago, a massive and deadly mudslide descended onto the beachfront community of La Conchita and claimed 10 lives. Perhaps the worst flooding came from Sepsi Creek in '69. But the Santa Clara and Ventura rivers have repeatedly overflowed their banks during El Nino winters, as Tim Bowman can tell you.
The water was coming over the top of this bridge.
No trespassing signs notwithstanding, many of the county's homeless are drawn to the riverbeds. Bowman has a friend who barely survived.
He was asleep in his camp, and next thing you know, water came through and washed him right out.
The county's working with several other agencies trying to relocate the homeless.
Pratt has another worry, the aging earthen levee that protects much of Oxnard from the Santa Clara River.
And that's failed at 3 different times in the past during El Nino years.
Along one stretch of the river, the major planned community of River Park has grown up over the past decade. Levee strengthening has been done. But what the looming El Nino could do to the levee is a major concern for the Public Works Director.
If it fails, we just start getting people out of the way.
LA County Public Works has already finished its annual clean-out of flood control catch basins and is now doing final vegetation removal from flood channels. But nobody's yet found a way to storm-proof an entire region.
Sometimes those storm cells will sit over one area that we didn't really see coming.
The Hemming family's Ford Expedition got trapped in mid-October in the mud that flowed from an hour's worth of rain.
A mountain of just mud just comes barreling down.
The main worries are areas below slopes that have been denuded by wildfire. It was the powerhouse fire 2 years ago that left the Lake Elizabeth Road corridor so vulnerable.
There are many areas where we're identifying and we're putting a plan in place for regional coordination.
Emergency Services activated its regional command center in Los Alamitos for the flash floods. The larger message, delivered on the new website, is that beyond what emergency responders do after disaster strikes, before then, families and neighbors need to get ready.
It's back to the old days. It's neighbor helping neighbor. It's the only thing that's going to work.
The key to protecting your family is to be prepared. Here are 4 tips for you. First, know your individual risk. Check your property and clear your drains and rain gutters of debris. And if you have to hire someone for gutters or for roof repair or tree trimming, be sure to do your homework. Make sure contractors have a current license. Ask for proof of insurance and never pay up front. Second, consider flood insurance. Most homeowners' policies don't include it. It can be pricey, but residents who live in flood-prone areas may qualify for a federal discount. Check with your insurance agent. And keep in mind, most insurance policies take 30 days to go into effect. Third, do some strategic sandbagging ahead of the storms. Sandbags are good for small flow protection, up to 2 feet. You can often get them for free from local fire stations. Check with your city or county government for more information. Fourth, make sure your emergency kit is ready to go. Some critical items include a flashlight, radio, extra batteries, food and water for family and pets for a 72-hour period. Also, have an evacuation plan that is easy for all family members to understand, and be prepared to leave immediately if an evacuation is ordered.
NBCLA.com is your #1 source for weather in Southern California. We've posted all the information in this special to our website.
You can always access it using your mobile device or tablet on our free NBCLA app.
And on the app, you can sign up for weather alerts that go directly to your phone.
Thank you for joining us. Good night.